Hi guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Please accept my greetings wherever you are. Here I'm again to help you how you can configure SSL VPN with web mode on FortiGate Firewall. And this time I will deploy the end-to-end solution from the scratch. So I have specially categorized the solution with some simple steps, and I do believe you, if you follow these steps, you will surely deploy the SSL VPN with web mode. The interesting thing for this video is I will configure the entire solution from the command line interface, and I will not configure any feature from the GUI mode. But yes, will help you to review the same feature on GUI mode. I will try to explain each command line as much as I know. If in case I miss something in between, please excuse me, and of course you can also drop a message on the comment box and I will take care of your queries. So as I told you, I have categorized the solution in simple steps. So these are the steps that I was talking about. Basically, first I will set up underlay network and later on will configure the overlay network. So as per the point 1, first we will understand the design and later on we will apply the config of any devices. In point 2, we will configure the firewall with basic features or necessary elements. For example, hostname, DNS config, LAN interface, WAN interface, and management interface. I will also perform some basic checks to ensure we are on right track. In point 3, we will review the configuration of Cisco router, which is connected to firewall on port number 3. Basically, I have already configured most of the features on Cisco router to save some time. I will share the configuration of the Cisco router with you so you can easily verify the features configured on the device. As per the point 4, we will configure a static route to access the internet service, as well as will configure the static routes to access the LAN subnets. In point 5, we will configure the firewall policy on FortiGate Firewall so that the Cisco router should have access to the internet services. In point 6, we will create user credential and also will map the user under a group. Basically, first I'll create a user and will create a user group, and later on I'll map the user under a user group. In point 7, we will create an IP pool for the Forti client. This is basically if someone downloads the Forti client and connects to the VPN, the host device can get the IP address from the pool. As per the point 8, we will configure SSL VPN Web Portal, and under this profile, we will map the service allowed for the VPN user. It could be like Telnet, SSH, RDP or VNC, anything. In point 9, we will apply some settings for SSL VPN. Basically, we will define an encryption method, certificate type, map IP pool, will set up portal URL settings, and a few more elements. And we will see all of them when we will configure it on firewall. At the end, in point 10, we will again create a firewall policy for the VPN users, so that once the user connect to the VPN portal, they should have access to the Telnet server or SSH server. So let's review the design first. So this is very simple and basic design, and the same design you will see in the EVNG simulator. So I have FortiGate Firewall, which have 3 legs. So port number 1, which has IP address 192.168.1.200/24, and that is connected to broadband router. So basically it's connected to over Wi-Fi. And the port number 2 has 192.168.200.200/24 IP address, and this subnet is especially used for the management purpose. Port number 3 is basically used for the LAN connection, and here I'm using 192.168.150.0/24 subnet, and we will give .1 IP address on port number 3. On the router part, we have Ethernet 0/0, and I will assign 192.168.150.2/24 IP address on Ethernet 0 interface. Please do not consider these are the physical ports. I will use loopback interface, and one of the loopback interface will have IP address 1111/32, and the another loopback interface will have the IP address 2222/32. So in very simple or generic language, I would say port number 1 is dedicated for the internet network, port number 2 is dedicated for the management network, and port number 3 is dedicated for the LAN network. Okay, you all might be thinking how I managed to use two subnets in VMware Workstation. Basically, when you install VMware Workstation, it will activate three virtual adapters: VMnet 0, VMnet 1, and VMnet 8. The VMnet 0 has default settings and nothing has been changed for VMnet 0 in my environment. The VMnet 1 properties has been changed and I have bridged the VMnet 1 interface on wireless adapter of my laptop. Also, using such setting will help the EVNG device to access the internet. As soon as the device connects using the VMnet interface, the device gets an IP address dynamically from IP pool created in VMware Workstation. Or you can also manually configure the IP address from the same range. The VMnet 8 has custom settings enabled on it, and it has 192.168.200.0/24 subnet, and nothing has been changed for it. So you can see VMnet 1 is based over a Wi-Fi interface, and any device which is part of the EVNG simulator will get the IP address from the broadband router. And any device which is part of this interface or connected to VMnet 8 interface, then it will get the IP address from the pool 192.168.200.0/24 subnet. So that's how I managed to set up a network, because I have port number 2 and port number 1 on the firewall. So I decided to use port number 2 for an internet service or a WAN connection, and port number 1 for a management purpose. If you want such type of settings to be applied on your VMware Workstation, please do let me know in the comment box and I will prepare the video for you. So let's jump on the FortiGate firewall and implement the solution. So I have some basic configuration on FortiGate firewall, or let me do one thing. Let me reset the entire firewall for you and we'll implement the solution from the scratch. So for that, I need to access the firewall from the CLI. As I promised, I will not touch the GUI part and will access the firewall from the CLI and will configure each and every element from the GUI, from the CLI. So username is admin, password 123456. Okay. So let's factory reset the firewall. So command is execute factory reset, and there are few options are there. Keep VM license. So I want to keep the license. Yes, it will take some time to boot up. Till then, I'm going to pause this video. Alright, device is ready. So username is admin, password is nothing. So we need to set up the password. So I'm going to set up the password for FortiGate firewall. Done. So let's first change the host name for this device. So for that, we need to go into the global configuration mode of the FortiGate firewall. So command is config system global. Now we need to set the host name. So command is set host name, and then I'm going to use the host name Techno Cafe. Done. Now we need to set up the time zone. So set time zone, and we have multiple time zones. So according to me, the time zone would be 47. It should be Kolkata, Chennai, Mumbai and New Delhi. So 47. Done. Now it's time to configure the interface IP address for port number 1. So for that you need to access the interface configuration terminal. So and the command is config system interface. And the next command is edit which port you want to edit. So that port you need to select. So port number 1 because that interface is directly connected to internet. And to configure the IP address, and the command is set IP 192.168.1.200 and the subnet mask is /24. So I'm pretty much sure it will not accept the IP address because it has some settings that need to be changed. It says cannot change the dynamic IP. Okay, let's make this settings to dynamic to static. So command is set mode static and now you can assign the IP address on it. That's it. Now what we need to do is we need to allow the service on this interface. So command is set allow access and I'm going to allow only ping. So when someone is from the outside is trying to access this IP address, the user will get the response from the firewall. Okay, so some comment also we can set up here. So set alias and alias is when connection and the role for this interface LAN, WAN, DMZ or unidentified. So for me it will be WAN. Click next. So configuration for the port 1 has been completed. Now you have to configure the IP address for the port number 2 as well as port number 3. So let's go to the port number 2, enter set IP 192.168.200.200 and the subnet mask is /24. Set allow access. So I want ping, then HTTP yes, or definitely yes HTTP. That's it, nothing much. Now I want to configure the alias for this one. So set alias is mgmt connection. So basically alias name is mgmt connection and the role, yes, role is LAN, WAN, DMZ or I would say unidentified. Click next and now we need to configure the port number 3 with IP address. So command is edit port 3, set the IP address 192.168.150.1, subnet mask is /24 and set allow access ping. So for LAN also I'm going to allow ping. Set alias LAN connection and the role for this one is set role LAN. That's it. We can go next and the command end will move out from the interface configuration. Okay, so finally we have configured basic things on the FortiGate firewall. So it's time to validate whether I'm able to access 192.168.1.1 or 192.168.200.1 IP address. So ping 192.168.1.1. Sorry, the command is execute ping 192.168.1.1. Yes, I'm able to ping. Now let me ping 192.200.1. Yes, both the IP addresses accessible. Okay, now it's time to test whether I'm able to access internet or not from here. So the command is execute ping 8.8.8. No, I can't. The reason is we haven't yet configured the static routing on the firewall. So let's do the static routing. So the command is config router static. Now we have to use the sequence number. So I'm going to use sequence number 1, edit 1, and then set gateway 192.168.1.1 for internet connection, and which interface it should use. So set device port number 1. That's it. So click next and end. So let's verify the configuration which we have done till now. So system interface. So we can see that port number 1, which have IP address 192.168.1.200, and it has allowed the service ping and some other information also. On port number 2, it has IP address 192.168.200.200, and since it is a management interface, so I have allowed few more service on this interface. So ping, HTTPS and HTTP. And port number 3 is dedicated for the LAN. So you can see 192.168.150.1, and it has the service allowed only ping. Okay, so system global. So initially we configured host name. So that host name you can see here, and the time zone. The time zone also you can verify here. And alias, okay, that's not needed. If you want, I can configure it here right away. Config system global, and then set alias, and then we can say Techno Cafe Lab. That's it. That's it. Let's verify the thing once again. So config system, so system global, and you can see the configuration has been applied for alias. What else we need to configure? Okay, we need to configure the DNS entry. So config system DNS, and then you have multiple options. So set primary or secondary, whatever you want to configure. So for me, primary is 8.8.8, and set secondary 4.2.2.2. Apart from this, I don't think any other information need to be configured here. So use the command end to come out from the DNS. Alright, now it's time to test whether I'm able to access internet from the FortiGate firewall. So execute the command execute ping and then 8.8.8. Yes, I'm able to access the internet. That's pretty cool for me. Let's verify the routing part also. So show router static. So only one static routing we can see here. I haven't configured the static routing for LAN subnet. I will do it later, or let's review the configuration for the router. So for the configuration part, so it should be 32771. Yes. So let me show you the IP address which I have used on the router. So Ethernet 0/0, that is connected to port number 3. Let me show you the design. So here is the router. It has Ethernet 0/0 interface, and it is connected to port number 3. So basically, if I go and execute the ping from here for 150.1, it should get the response. Yes, I can see it's reachable. And how about from the firewall? So execute ping 192.168.150.2. Yes. So whether I'm able to access or reach 1.1.1 or 2.2.2, let's verify. Execute ping 1.1.1. Yes, it's reachable. So definitely it's using port number 1 to reach 1.1.1 because 1.1.1 is a public IP address. So I must change the IP address of router 3 so that it should not send a query message for 1.1.1. So let me change the IP address. Interface loopback 1 IP address 10.10.10.10.10, and for loopback 2 it should be 10.10.20. That's fine. Let's verify the ping reachability for these IP address. Execute ping 10.10.10.10. Say it's not reachable. Let me try for 20. Yeah, it's not reachable. So for that we need to apply a static route on FortiGate firewall. And to apply the static route on the FortiGate firewall, we need to go or execute the command config router static, then add it 2 because one is already dedicated for 192.168.1.1 gateway, and here set DST, we need to tell the IP address or the network 10.10.10.10, and we need to give the subnet mask which is /32. We need to tell the which port and what's the gateway IP address for this one. So gateway is set gateway 192.168.150.2. Also we need to tell when trying to reach 192.168.150.2 gateway for the IP 10.10.10.10 which interface it has to use to go out. So the device is port 3. That's it. So let me verify. Sorry, it should be next and then end. So execute ping 192.10.10.10.10. See, it's reachable. And how you can verify? Just go on router 3 and execute the command debug IP ICMP. Let's execute the command once again and we'll review the things over there. See, I'm receiving the traffic from 192.168.150.1 and my router is sending the echo response to the firewall. Okay, let's finish the configuration for the second IP, which is 10.10.10.20. So I'm basically talking about the static routing for 10.10.10.20's IP address. So the command is config router static, add it 3, and the command is set DST 10.10.10.20, and the subnet mask is /32, set gateway 192.168.150.2, set device port 3. That's it. Let's review the static routing configuration. So router static, it's pretty cool. So it added 1 which has the gateway for 192.168.1.1 and the exit interface is port 1 which is basically for the internet service, and the added 2 is for 10.10.10.10 and the gateway is 150.2, and the added 3, the rule number 3 is for 10.10.10.20 IP address and the gateway is 150.2, and both of them use the source interface port number 3. Let me verify once again. So execute ping 10.10.10.10, that's fine, and 20, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so this time we need to check whether we are able to access internet IP address by internet service from the core router. So let me execute the command ping 8.8.8, and I'm pretty much sure it will not accessible. Let me see if I'm seeing the traffic on port number 3. So diagnose sniffer packet port 3, and let me execute the command. I can see that the echo request which is coming on port number 3, yes, definitely when router 3 will initiate an echo request, it will reach to port number 3 of the firewall. But I don't see any echo response or echo reply, just because we haven't yet applied any firewall policy that can allow the traffic pass through the firewall. So before that, let's review all these configuration which we have done till now from the GUI mode. Okay, let's go to the browser and type the IP address 192.168.200.200. Okay, so 200.200 is basically for the management. I already told you that we have two subnet, which is one is 192.168.1.0, that is dedicated for the internet, and 192.168.200.0, and that is for the management. And if I go access the firewall using the IP address 192.168.1.200, I definitely will not have access for the firewall. See, because we haven't applied the settings on WAN interface. Okay, so let's stick to the management interface IP address. So username is admin, password is admin. What's going on? Okay, we are accessing this firewall first time. Don't show this again. Okay, let's review the things first. Host name is TechnoCafe, that's pretty fine. Okay, now let's go to the interface part and we'll see the interface configuration. We can see that LAN interface is port number 3, management interface is port number 2, and WAN interface is port number 1. All three are physical interface. So port number 3 has 192.168.150.1 and that allow ping. Management interface, which is port number 2, has 192.168.200.200 and it allows the traffic type ping, HTTPS and HTTP. Now the third one is, which is WAN interface, has IP 192.168.1.200 and it allows only ping. So that's fine. Let's see the static routing. So we can see the static routing.